Hello, Theories of Play students. This is Michelle. I pulled out a few things from comments and ideas from week 6, and I just wanted to go over those and respond a little bit to them. Um, so, one of you wrote a lot about uh, what a normal parent would want for their child, and that the reality of that is different, because you know parents who are drug addicted, and still have custody of their children, parents whose work schedules are crazy and they don't care what their children do while they're at work, I guess is what that means, and that parents don't care because their life outside of the kids. I'm not sure I know what that means, but I'm thinking that overall this is why I wanted to respond to it, is that there's this idea of believing in the good in all parents, and that when you see the not so good as it's described here, um, it feels sad to you. Of course, we all feel sad about those kinds of things, I'm sure. um, and you know that you're leaving your child in distress. And this student goes on to say that they were happy to know that the case study did not chalk it up to a child being a brat, but a phase of simply taking them away from their parent, which to me causes more damage than good. So I'm a little bit concerned about my response to it not being totally on target, because some of that I don't have the advantage of being in class with you, so I can ask you what you mean. But sorry, there are things in here that I just want to respond to in a general way when you think about play and the relationship to parents. That's what I really wanted to speak to. Many parents, especially since COVID, and bear that in mind always, please. Since COVID, parents of young children, of all children for that matter, are very concerned with what they feel like was a waste of their children's time, that they didn't get any schooling, they didn't learn anything during COVID, and that sort of thing. That's a very, very strong point of view. And what they mean by learn anything is what we would call academics, things like math, reading, science, the different content areas that are taught at school. What I want to do is introduce the idea here to you. I want you to really think about this a lot, because it has everything to do with play and play experiences. Children are always learning. I'm going to say that again. Children are always learning. The brain can, if it's functioning typically and in a healthy way, in other words, there's no brain damage or anything of that nature. But even my sister was very brain damaged, but she was learning all the time up until she was in her 50s when she died, and she was still learning. So what do we mean by that? The brain is always making sense of the world with the abilities that it has access to. It doesn't really matter what the child is doing. They're learning. The brain is learning all the time. Why? Because learning is accessing and putting into compartments all different forms of knowledge, no matter whether it's I'm going to the grocery store with you, I'm sitting at home, playing with a toy, I'm at school sitting at a desk learning math. And the assumption is if you're sitting at a desk and somebody's teaching math that you're learning it. And I want to tell you that's not true. The brain does not work that way. The brain is taking in lots of different sensory input and information, and it only can show us what we think it learned when it can express. First of all, you have to be able to express what you know and remember what you know. So learning is much more complicated than what we say it is. And that's why play is learning, because play allows the child to have experiences. Where we come in is when, as children get older, we help them process those experiences and listen to them, not tell them what they learned, but listen to them tell us in the best way they can what they learned. It could be something like they produce some picture, or it may not happen till 2 years later in early childhood. So what I want to say about this thing with parents is that be careful and cautious about judging people who are drug addicted, who have busy work lives, or who may have issues with being a parent that cause them to create a busy life away from their children. It's very easy for us to point the finger and say, you're not doing it right. But it's harder and better for children if we love and care about their parents, no matter who they are or what they're doing. Now, does that mean we don't still have mandated tasks of reporting parents who are operating in abusive ways? If we know a parent has a drug addiction and it's pretty clear the child's being neglected because of it, of course, we're mandated reporters. So when I say love and care about them, I don't mean they're not accountable for what they're doing. What I mean is that all children, no matter who their parents are, want the love and devotion of their parents. And we must recognize that in children. Children can feel that we're judging their parents. We may not say it, we may behave appropriately, but they can feel it. So this disrupts play because the child is not playing freely when they are worried about what they're experiencing around us, what we might be feeling. Like a lot of times what we do as teachers is when we're working with children in a play setting and children are playing, we often are having thoughts or feelings about what they're doing as well. Yeah, that figures because look at what their parent does, right? Like we are thinking about why this child is doing what they're doing as a result of what their parents are doing. And children feel that inside of them. They can feel it in us. And so I just want to be really cautious with that. Of course, all these things are sad and terrible. My son's father died from drug use. So I understand. And it can be very easy for people to judge him about that. That was a long time ago. My son is 43. But still, when he was young, people judged his father, and it was very harmful to him that happened. And I had to raise him to know the good things about his father and to understand what drug addiction is. So blaming a drug addict for lack of services and support for drug abuse is really like blaming a diabetic for having diabetes. I mean, we know that those are conditions that are medical conditions. So I just want to be really, really careful with this. My son's father loved my son. He cared about him. He was devoted to him, but he was addicted to a substance that he could not get the right services for and the help he needed. So that's a really clear example of that. And then someone goes into what desires from families impacting the class the most, having a balance between what a parent wants and what a teacher knows is needed, and that We need collaborative leadership, yes, absolutely. But I want to really encourage us not to think about families and teachers as separate, but more as collaborators, people who need to work together on behalf of the children. Even the parents that we think the worst of have hopes and dreams for their children. And so I kind of wanted to just talk about that a little bit and relate it to what we're doing in a play-based environment.